The really smart people in the meat industry starting to invest in the meat alternatives. In fact, one of the biggest producers of meat said the future of food may be meatless. They get it, but it's really up to us to change it. So I urge everyone listening who's an animal lover, step it up. If you look at slavery, which I always look at as an example of the sacrifices made to change an intolerable, cruel situation, people didn't just say, oh, this is a bad idea. People formed an underground railroad. They risked their lives, they risked their freedom, they risked their families, they risked their careers to shuttle people to freedom. And if you look at Harriet Tubman, she was a slave who got out, and she just wasn't content to stay out. She went back repeatedly, risking her own life. She was a wanted woman to free others. That's the kind of dedication it's going to take to change this.
The Vidal Speaks podcast.
Episode 80. Jane Valez-Mitchell, bringing veganism into the mainstream. Welcome to Vidal Speaks. My name is Deborah Vidal, former 11-year LPGA golf pro turned classical homeopath, certified plant-based nutritionist, and wellness coach. Each week here on Vidal Speaks, we bring you knowledge, inspiration, or natural remedies to help you take charge of your health and feel your best. I believe health is freedom and knowledge is power, so tuning in each week will give you the power to take steps towards freeing yourself from the chains that hold you back from having the energy to do all you want in life. No matter where you are in your journey of wellness, Vidal Speaks can help. I promise. Hi guys, welcome back to the Vidal Speaks podcast. I'm Deborah Vidal, also known as Vidal to some, and I'm your host. I feel so honored to be the host of this podcast because I love to sit here each and every week and connect with you guys. I believe in that saying, power is in numbers, and for a long time I've been feeling the need to speak out and tell you the truth. But also because I want you to know that there's so many natural remedies and methods out there like homeopathy that can actually turn your health around no matter what the doctor tells you. Basically, we speak about lifestyle as medicine on this show. That means understanding what is the best way to eat, how much sleep we may need, and how much exercise, meditation, or detox, and how they can affect our health. I speak about any aspect of health on this show because health is more than just being symptom-free. It's about being free, but not symptom-free. Freedom comes from feeling good mentally, emotionally, and physically. So when we're free like that, then we have the freedom to do whatever we want in our life. That's why I always say health is freedom. And optimal health is a different level of health than just being physically fine. It takes a balance of so many things to reach optimal health in life, especially mastering emotional and mental health. Another part of health is balancing work with our passions. We need a passion in life to sink our energy into. Hopefully it's a passion that's giving something back to others in some way or doing good for some cause, because there's never too much of that in the world, is there? Sadly, in today's world, though, so many people don't know what their passion is, or they don't make time for their passion. But then there are some people that know what their passion is, and they're so deeply touched by it that they make it their life work. Well, that's the story of today's guest. Her name is Jane Valez-Mitchell. Most of you know Jane already since she's a very well-known reporter in the news media world. She had her own show, as you'll hear about in our interview, and that allowed her to do more stories on her real-life work, which is saving animals and exposing the cruelty that goes on behind closed doors. Well, thanks to Jane and her website, JaneUnChained.com, it's not so much behind closed doors anymore. Be sure to check out her website, JaneUnChained.com, as Jane has a show that she does 6 days a week, and it's called Lunch Break Live. She does it as a Facebook Live event 6 days a week, if you can believe that. And guess who made lunch for her show a couple weeks back? Yep, moi. That means me in some language, I think, right? I posted the video on my Facebook and Twitter, so please check it out because it got almost 4,000 views. I made an easy, yummy, fast, delicious lunch that I'm pretty sure you're going to say is about the most amazing vegan tuna you ever will eat and the most refreshing drink ever drank. Because I mixed watermelon, just pure watermelon in my Vitamix, and I added rose water and mint, and yum, you have to try it. So please check it out and leave a comment if you feel inspired. Jane does this show Lunch Break Live because she wants everyone to see how easy it is to eat vegan. And you guys will love this show because her videos are only 15 minutes. So everything's easy, fast, and delicious. And imagine if she has this 6 days a week, then you can just go on her website and see millions of recipes. And she does this all in addition to her animal advocacy work. She heads protests, marches, attends other marches, shoots videos of cruelty to expose the industry. She speaks on animal rights and not only talks the talk, but Jane walks the walk, let me tell you. You won't meet a more passionate, animal-loving person, I promise. She's a real person with a huge heart that won't stop until all animals stop suffering just to be food for humans that kill them to eat them. She is known to tell it like it is, and I love that about her. Okay, before we start the interview, though, let me tell you a little bit more about Jane Valez-Mitchell. Jane Valez-Mitchell is the founder and editor of JaneUnChained.com, a multi-platform social media news outlet that produces original video content on animal rights and the vegan, compassionate lifestyle. Jane Unchained's Lunch Break Live daily live vegan cooking show has featured dozens of chefs and nutrition experts since launching in May. It can be seen 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time at facebook.com/Jane Valez-Mitchell. Jane Unchained also airs The Vegan View, an occasional series that features movers and shakers in the vegan world. Jane Unchained stories are widely shared around the nation and the world. Jane is the winner of 4 Genesis Awards from the Humane Society of the United States for her reporting on animal issues. For 6 years, she hosted her own show on CNN Headline News. Valez-Mitchell also reported for the national syndicated Warner Brothers Telepictures show Celebrity Justice and was a news anchor reporter at KCAL-TV in LA and WCBS-TV in New York. Jane is the author of 4 books, the 2014 nonfiction New York Times bestseller, Exposed, The Secret Life of Jodi Arias, that details a salacious trial that gripped the American public. Secrets Can Be Murder delves into the secrecy and deceit embedded in tragic scenarios. And her other book, Addict Nation, An Intervention for America, with Sandra Mohr, focuses on greed and overconsumption. Her other New York Times bestseller is her memoir titled iWant, My Journey from Addiction and Overconsumption to a Simpler, Honest Life. She is active in the LGBT community and lives with her partner, fellow vegan and animal activist Donna Dennison, and their companion animals in Marina del Rey. Okay, you guys ready? Well, let's go talk to Jane. So just sit back, but you won't be able to relax on this one because she's very passionate. With the two of us together, it's not a podcast for sleeping. All right, here we go. Hi, Jane. Wow, thanks for coming to the Vidal Speaks studio here on the Knob in Hollywood Hills. I'm super excited about getting a chance to let our passions fly about our love for animals today. So thanks for joining me.
I'm so thrilled to be here, and you're an inspiration to me. Not only because you know how to play golf, but because you're a vegan golfer, and we need people who are in the public eye to adopt this plant-based diet and show the human race a better way.
You know, it's funny, while we're on that subject, I played for 11 years on the LPGA, and I had most of my sponsor contracts were Japanese. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of our season, I would go over to Japan for 10 weeks. And it's amazing how much grief and the time, because now it's more acceptable, that how much grief you receive as an athlete being vegan, because everyone thought like, that's crazy. You don't get enough protein, of course. And now look, we have triathletes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we did then too. And I always knew their names so I could tell, look at Carl Lewis, he's vegan.
Yeah,
How
we have
about
vegan
him?
bodybuilders.
Yeah, but people just don't get it. And you know, in
Gorillas are 100 times stronger than humans, and they're not eating burgers and shakes. They're eating primarily fruit.
Yeah.
And I know a female fruitarian bodybuilder who's in extraordinary shape.
Yeah, so it really is a myth, but also you would love that on the tour, the couple things that I did, I was known for wearing leopard print because I'm just a cat freak and I love big cats and everything and animals. And on my ball, in a big Sharpie, black Sharpie, I wrote all across my ball, "Save our wildlife."
Oh, how wonderful.
That was what I did. And when the ball would putt on the green, it would look like there was always mud on my ball because you'd see the black rolling over it. But anyways, I've been a lover of animals. That's why I went vegetarian, vegan when I was 11. And so I know you've been long time vegan too.
Yeah, about 21 years.
That's so
Howard
great.
Lyman was the mad cowboy who got me to go vegan. He was the fourth generation cattle rancher. He got sick and he said, God, if you get me through this, I'll reveal the secrets of the cattle industry. He went on Oprah and he revealed the secrets. And she said, that just stopped me cold from eating another burger. And then the cattleman sued her and she had to move her show down to Texas. I don't know if you remember, this is quite a couple of decades ago now.
Yeah,
Well, he was doing a book tour for his book, Mad Cowboy, which is a great book. And I interviewed him when I was a local news anchor at Channel 9, working out of Paramount Studios in Hollywood. And afterwards, he and his publicist came up to me and they said, so we hear you're a vegetarian. And I said, yes. And I was kind of a half-assed vegetarian. I sometimes ate shellfish. And they looked at me and they said, do you eat dairy? And I was kind of shamefaced because I had just heard about the horrors that dairy inflicts on baby calves being ripped away from their mothers. And, you know, they keep the cows pregnant and then they send them off to be slaughtered and they replace them with their daughters, you know, and the boys go into veal crates. And it was just a horror show. So I said, you know, my head down, kind of embarrassed. I said, yeah. And his publicist looked at me and pointed right at my nose and said, liquid meat, like that. And that's the moment I went vegan. And that was about 21 years ago, and I've never looked back. I have such energy. I'm going to be 62 in a couple of months, and I have a lot of energy, and I'm healthy, and I'm happy.
And I attest to that high energy level. I mean, I'm like that myself.
Yeah.
I think it's part of your nature, but when you're healthy, then you can really show the passion that you truly have. So, okay, now you know I'm a homeopath, so I'm going to ask a lot of questions
Sure.
because homeopaths just dig deep all the time.
All right.
So I want to tell people you're well known, but in case there's someone out there that doesn't know your story, let's talk a little bit about how you got started. I'd love to know your story just about
Sure.
animals. And was there, other than the Howard Lyman thing, was there a reason you became vegetarian?
My mom, who was born in Puerto Rico in the island of Vieques, had a pet pig. She thought her pig was a pet pig, but the pig was a food pig. She came home from school one day and her pig had been slaughtered, and she collapsed on the ground, and she was hysterical because she loved that pig, and she shunned meat from that point on. And my mom lived to 99 and a half. She just died 2 years ago. So I was raised in a kind of pescatarian household. We actually thought of ourselves as vegetarians. My dad, who was Irish, was a big meat eater until he met my mom. And then he converted to pescatarianism. So we kind of thought we were vegetarians.
Yeah.
As a lot of early vegetarians who were actually pescatarians did.
Yeah.
So I grew up eating a lot of vegetables, but also fish and dairy. And then as I got older and became a reporter, I went to NYU and I worked in Fort Myers, Florida as a reporter anchor. I worked in Minneapolis, Minnesota as a reporter anchor. I worked in Philadelphia as a reporter anchor. I worked in New York as a reporter anchor. And then I moved to LA where I was an anchor and a reporter. Over the course of that journey, I started seeing information about the horrors of animal abuse and also factory farming. I never will forget the moment I first saw pig gestation crates. Thousands and thousands of pigs who have a higher IQ than dogs lined up in crates the size of their bodies, not able to turn around, not able to scratch themselves, and they go mad. And they bite the bars to the point where their teeth crumble. And I thought, this can't be real. People, human beings, cannot design something so obviously cruel and sadistic. It cannot be real. And then when I saw that it was real, I think I was just so heartbroken. And I said, I have to devote myself to these animals. And every day I wake up and I think, what can I do to help these animals? And I don't care if I end up living in a studio apartment in the middle of nowhere. I will do everything in my power every day to stop the atrocities of. My main focus is factory farming because that's where most of the animals are killed. 66 billion land animals killed every year. 9 billion here in the United States. And if you include fish, it's trillions. And in the process of killing these animals, we are destroying our environment. 51%, according to the World Bank experts, 51% of all greenhouse gases come from animal agriculture, way beyond all transportation combined. And yet the so-called environmentalists don't talk about it. And you've got to check out What the Health, which is a film by Kip Anderson and Keegan Kuhn.
Fantastic. You gotta watch
Cowspiracy. And these are not, horror films that are going to keep you up at night. They're really informational about how there is a conspiracy of silence. So over the course of my career, which spanned 38 years in mainstream media, I tried to get animal issues on, and I was successful by hook or by crook. Most notably, my last gig, you might say, full-time gig, was at HLN, and I asked them if I could do a weekly animal segment, and they said yes. So I started talking about all these things on national television and bringing people on to talk about it, and I felt like I had an impact. I really did. For 6 years, pretty much every Friday. Of course, with breaking news, there's exceptions, but pretty much every Friday we would have some kind of animal story on, often about factory farming, propositions to end pig gestation crates, fighting the ag-gag laws that try to criminalize people who go undercover to expose the abuses. And so when the show wrapped after 6 years, which is a pretty good run, they don't last forever. News goes on forever, but the shows associated with it don't.
That's true.
6 years was a good run, and I really just thought, damn, that weekly animal segment, what can I do to keep that alive? So they had created a social media presence for me. I had 190,000 followers on Facebook. I had about 185 on Twitter, and I had a Pinterest account and a Twitter, Tumblr account, all these accounts. So I just took them all. And I was walking down the street with my girlfriend, and I was like, well, so what do I do with this? And she said, well, you're unchained. You can do whatever you want. And not to say that I felt chained. I was very happy to have a job, but it was kind of like I was free to really do whatever I wanted. So I said, yeah, Jane Unchained. And she goes, that's a fun title. So we called it Jane Unchained. We took all the social media following and we tailored it to animal rights. And you can listen and watch me on Facebook.com/Jane Valez-Mitchell. That's where most people see the videos. We've now doubled our following. We're well over 300,000, and we're growing by about 10,000 a week. And also JaneUnchained.com. And of course, it's also symbolic of unchaining animals.
Yeah, that's a great name. It really is, because it is symbolic. Because I was wondering how you got that name, but I related to the story of the animals. Interesting that your mom was from Puerto Rico and your dad's Irish, because my dad's Puerto Rican and my mom's British. So
wow.
And I think when you mix those two together, I always say we're mutts, but mutts are usually healthier, right?
Yes, and smarter.
But Puerto Ricans have a lot of passion, and look at the Irish and the English. So I think that's just part of the heritage. But I also, when you were telling me that story about all the work that you did, because I know you were well known for crime when you were doing your regular investigative reporting. Yes. But I know, because I know your work in animal activism, and I know how passionate you really are about that.
Yes.
But I honestly believe that everything we're doing, we're on the path that we need to be doing, because I can relate to your story in the sense of golf. I only started playing golf after college. My dad's an eye doctor, and I got to go with him one year with my mom and dad to the Mauna Kea beautiful resort. His doctor friends invited me to play golf. I said, are you crazy? I'm in Hawaii. I am not playing this stupid sport that chases a little white ball around. But I did, and within a year, I was scratched.
So you're a natural.
I was a natural. 3 years later, I was on the tour. So it all came so fast. But honestly, I realize now looking back, and even while I was on there, that I didn't really love it. I love sports. I was an athlete all my life. But golf was so opposite of me. I'm fast. I talk. You got to be quiet. You got to wear ugly clothes. You got to be quiet. And it's slow.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that was my teacher to learn. It was kind of my Zen master, golf, to teach my mind to slow down. It was really interesting. And when I left it, and when things end, like you said, when your show ended, it is a kind of like a freedom. Then you go, now what am I going to do? Well, okay, I worked for the Golf Channel. It was an avenue for me to speak about what I knew. Yeah. And I was always interested in health. So I now am on this path with my podcast to do this speaking, because I feel like that is my life work. And all these pieces that I did in my life, they all helped me get here. And I think your talent in your animal activism could not be as good as it is today without all the work that you did.
Yeah, because what we're doing is we're using all the techniques that I learned over 38 years in the news business to get the stories out.
Right.
And so, there is a mainstream media news blackout on animal rights and veganism. And all you have to do is look at the advertisers: meat, dairy, pharmaceuticals, the three industries that have the most to lose if people switch to a plant-based diet. If people started eating plant-based diet, men wouldn't need to get erectile dysfunction drugs because the arteries in their penis wouldn't be clogged. You wouldn't need anti-heart disease, cholesterol-lowering drugs because there's no cholesterol in plants. So the pharmaceutical industry and the meat and dairy industry they're some of the biggest advertisers on mainstream TV, if not the biggest in daytime.
So there's really like a law that you can't...
No, it's not a law. It's an unspoken rule. It's just do the math. Do the math. Yeah. If you're going to be constantly talking about how meat and dairy are bad for you,
you're not going to be on TV very long.
Well, I just think that it's sort of like, it's certainly not like most conspiracies, just like the idea that we all have to eat meat to survive, which is a total scam.
Yeah.
It's not like people got together and said, we're going to make this happen. It's just, what Dr. Melanie Joy, who's brilliant, calls carnism. It's an oppressive system that indoctrinates us to eat meat. And she points out, we are not carnivores. Humans are not carnivores. If we were carnivores, when we saw roadkill on the side of the road, we would pull over, start salivating, and want to go there and just eat it right off the ground.
Right.
That's what carnivores do. We don't do that. So we actually are not carnivores. In fact, we have to dress up our meat in order to even find it digestible.
Yeah.
What person would go into a supermarket and grab a raw breast of a chicken and just start eating it? Nobody.
Yeah. It sounds so disgusting.
It's disgusting.
But we're just trained. And even the smell, once you've been a vegan a long time or just not eating any animal flesh, and then you smell it burnt on a grill, it just absolutely stinks. But people who have been trained, they think that smells good because that's all they know.
Well, it's all conditioning.
It's conditioning.
Conditioning had, women wearing corsets that would keep them from breathing, and women in other cultures wrapping their feet till they, basically started collapsing. The bones would collapse. So we can be indoctrinated to do anything. And what we're trying to do, you and I are trying to wake people up that there's a better way. I mean, as our friend, my new friend and your long friend, Dr. Reese Halter explained, the sixth mass extinction has begun. And it's primarily most of the land in this world that is being used for animal agriculture.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is madness. But it's easy to look back at slavery or the Holocaust or women not being kept in as property and say that's madness. But it's so hard to look at madness that's happening today and acknowledge it as madness. I was reading something that was very interesting. It said, while most people would like to think of themselves as heroes when they think back on past horrors, like the horrors of Nazi Germany or the horrors of human slavery or the horrors of women who were, kept as chattel, and they like to think that they would be one of the few to actually take a stand and do something. The truth is that in all those situations, less than 1% of the population did anything. Most just went along with it. Well, what are we seeing here? We're seeing most people going along with the way it is. But, there are a small group of people I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, never underestimate the power of a small yet determined group of people to change the world. Indeed, they're the only ones who ever do. That
Hello,
actually,
vegans.
yes, take us to the tipping point. So we're working to get to that tipping point, but we need everybody to double down.
Yeah.
We need everybody who cares about animals, who, for example, loves dogs or loves cats, to realize, well, if I love my dog or I love my cat, I'm not going to kill a pig or a cow, which are just like my dogs and cats, or a lamb. I'm going to come up with alternatives. And so, I call dogs and cats the gateway drug to animal compassion, because it's absurd to say you love animals because you're petting your dog and then kill 10,000 animals over the course of your life. 10,000 over the course of your lifetime.
So, Jane, why do you think that is? Because I personally have friends, colleagues and friends that are animal lovers. I mean, to the point where they can get tears in their eyes and they see an animal story and they love animals. Like, you're clear that they love animals.
Right. And then you try to tell them about animal agriculture or the horrors, and they go, don't tell me. They literally say, I had this woman who said, she goes, I love animals. And I started to tell her about factory farming, and she literally said, don't tell me. I'm too sensitive. Well, if you're so damn sensitive, why are you ordering the hit? This is a consumer issue. When we do vigils at the pig slaughterhouses, which we do every weekend for JaneUnChained, and we go live and we show these pigs going to be slaughtered, and they are babies and they look terrified and they're hungry and they're scared and they're confused. And I look in their eyes and I'm like, oh my God, if I could get you out, but I can't, because you're considered property and you're not. Aww. You're not my property, and I can't do anything to help you but comfort you, say I love you, and give you water and pray for you as you go in to be slaughtered. And it's so difficult. And yet these people, they don't want to see the images. They don't want to hear about it. So that's why I do Lunch Break Live every day except Saturday, Sunday through Friday and you're happy to take Saturday's slot if you want, on Facebook.com/Jane Valez-Mitchell. And we also post it on the website, JaneUnChained.com, and we distribute it on LinkedIn and on email blasts of a daily vegan cooking show. Because everything is whatever you consider normal, right? So we are trying to normalize a plant-based diet. And the truth is that a normal diet is a diet of plants. In fact, most of our grandparents ate a primarily plant-based diet.
Yeah, and so when you were talking about this pigs in the crate thing, I mean, how do you keep yourself healthy and see such sadness?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Ingrid Newkirk. And Ingrid Newkirk has a great sense of humor despite all the horrors that she sees. And, she points out just being sad isn't going to help the animals. Us sitting around and moping and saying it's terrible. So I give myself permission to enjoy my life and be a living example. Because if I'm depressed and negative, it's not going to, inspire anybody else to go vegan. Yeah. So I give myself permission to be happy, joyous and free, as long as I do something to help the animals every day.
Right.
So that's what I do every single day. And whether it's waking up and signing a petition, posting it on my Facebook page, posting it on my Twitter page. I signed up to PETA 2. I urge everybody to sign up to PETA 2. They send out email lists. Same thing with Mercy for Animals. Same thing with the Humane Society. Do a little homework every day. Yeah. I get mail in my inbox, and I'm a very busy person. And I take that moment to look at the email, sign, tell some university laboratory that's torturing rats, please stop. And then I post it on my Facebook, post it on my Twitter, and then I do the next one. And usually about 2 or 3 or 4. And then I go about my day trying to do Lunch Break Live. And later today, we're going to be covering some protests. What I'm trying to do, and I've set a grand intention, is to create a social media network for animal rights and veganism. And network sounds like a big highfalutin word, but you know what? A network is a fancy word for a production company with a distribution channel to an audience. And that's what we're creating on all of these platforms.
Fantastic.
And we've had a post reach recently of up to 2 million or more. And one interview we did with Dr. Neil Barnard got at this point, it's gotten 680 something thousand views. And so, we're getting there.
Yeah, that's so great. I love, and he's such a like
him.
sweet soul.
Yes.
So he's the kind of person that can change a lot of people
Yes.
because he's really a believer, and he's so
Yes.
passionate about it. But
Yes.
he's such a sweet soul.
Yes.
Like Michael Clapper, I had him on my show, another person that loves animals, and he's
Yes.
got such a good heart. But I've always said, if people wanted to eat an animal, then they should be required to do two things. One is, I believe that factory farm slaughterhouses should have glass walls.
Yes.
And they should have to stay there all day and watch what happens.
Well, all they have to do is watch the videos.
Yeah.
Farm
but
to fridge,
that was
meet
the
your
next
meat.
thing. That was the next thing. Then they would have to watch like Earthlings or these movies that I can't even see because it's just so heartbreaking because I already understand what's going on,
Yeah.
and it's so heartbreaking to know this. But I get so frustrated by friends or people that I even don't know when they do what you say and they say, don't tell me, I don't want to know. But you're eating animals, you're contributing
Or they
to
laugh.
murdering.
Or they laugh. Like,
But so
there
what
was
do
a
we
guy
say
today,
to
this
people?
morning, who said, I was doing an unnamed media interview, and he said, we're kind of friendly, we talk before the segment or whatever, and he said, well, in your honor, I had a vegan green drink this morning, Jane, but of course then I went out and killed a lot of animals, and ha 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 ha. I said, think about what you're saying. You said you went out and killed, and you're laughing about that.
Yeah.
And it's like first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they get angry at you, then they join you.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it sticks in his mind to mention it is a sign that he's fighting with himself and justifying and rationalizing and minimizing and saying everybody does it and telling himself all the lies, just like people who go out and drink. And I'm a recovering alcoholic with 22 years of sobriety. I minimized my behavior. I rationalized it. I justified it in innumerable ways until I hit bottom on it.
Yeah, and congratulations,
Thank you.
26 years. That's
22.
22, wow.
Hopefully one day, knock on wood, I'll get to.
Yeah.
But it's one day at a time.
It is.
Yeah.
That's how, and that's a
Yeah.
good strategy for life in general.
Yes.
So you think with people that we do know that aren't strangers, when they say, oh, don't tell me, I don't want to know that stuff, is there any line that we can say? Do you just leave them alone and let them come their way? But I just find that they just keep saying that year after year after year, and these
Yes.
are not unconscious human beings.
Right.
They're just in denial.
That's why I think the big picture is to normalize veganism, because I do feel like the tipping point by Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about hitting a certain point where the rest of society tips. And he uses examples of fads, how something can go for just a couple of cool kids down in the village wearing a certain type of shoe to everybody's wearing it, and it's become a craze. And so there's a science and a method to getting to people and getting them to adopt new behaviors. So one of them, and I don't quote me because you just have to read the book yourself, but I think what some interesting aspects that he's talked about in a couple of books is that there's different types of people who affect change. And some of them are the experts, the ones that have all the facts. He has a name for each one. One of them is the connectors. The people who connect people, like Dr. Reese Halter, not only has all the facts, but he also connected you and me.
Right.
So we're now working together, and there's strength in numbers. And
sure.
then there's the salespeople, the people who go out and really sell the idea, like Gene Bauer, Farm Sanctuary, who goes around the country to Veg Fest selling the idea of veganism. And he's really great speaker. Like, he's one of the reasons why I decided to do JaneUnChained as well, was that, it was multi-determined, as they say. But for a long time, I had been very frustrated by going to vegetarian, vegan food festivals and events and having people speak to a room full of vegans who already agree with them. And I would pull my hair out thinking, no,
we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, these people, we're preaching to the converted. These people already agree. Gene Bauer, who's such an amazing speaker, sure, there were some people in the room who weren't vegan that he would convert, but I was like, everybody in America needs to hear him every time he speaks. And so that's part of what I'm doing with JaneUnChained. We travel all over the country and to other countries. Everywhere we go, we showcase vegan restaurants, and we also go to Veg Fests and other events and broadcast the speeches of incredible people like Gene Bauer and Miyoko of Miyoko's Cheese. Recently, we went to the Las Vegas conference, a health conference. It was a vegan health conference. And our associate, Lisa Carlin, set up a camera and a microphone and went live. Now, one of the great gifts to the animal rights movement is live. Facebook Live, and there's also Twitter Live and YouTube Live, but Facebook Live is the biggie. And so we can take those speeches that used to happen to a room of maybe 100 people, 90% or 80% or 70% of whom are already vegan, and take that and send it out to other people. And I target, health, organic food, weight loss, progressive. I target people who should, environmentalists, people who should be vegan and aren't. I get very frustrated when people say they're environmentalists and care about the environment and they're eating meat or wearing a leather purse.
I know, as Reese would say, they're eating their clients.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you protect animals and the environment and then you're eating animals? That just doesn't make any sense. But
and they're smart enough to know. See,
they are.
That's I remember when some group in New York first started doing TV ads about change your light bulbs, go green. Mm-hmm. And I was just irritated. And I just took a moment to track them down on the phone and say I was a journalist and get the executive of the organization on the phone. And I said, why aren't you talking about meat production's impact on climate change? And he's like, oh, we're not going to go there. Well, it's because they don't want to change their own habits, because he wants to go out and eat a hamburger for lunch, because he doesn't want to look in the mirror.
Right.
And these people are hypocrites.
And it's partly why doctors, even though they have no training, that's the main reason, they're taught by pharmaceutical companies. But doctors, if they did know it and said that to their patient, and then they're going home and eating a steak. So that's another reason why doctors won't do it. And that is a big thing. But what do you think really holds people back mostly?
Tradition and conditioning. They've been, sold a bill of goods. For example, soy. The meat and dairy industry saw that the soy companies and the soy products were eating into their market share. And so they went out to demonize soy. And you can create a study to prove just about anything.
Yep.
If you look at the wine is good studies, it's usually funded by the wine companies.
Yeah.
So they went out to try to demonize soy and scare everybody. And they have tons of money and publicists and lobbyists and everything else. So people say, oh, I don't know if I can do that, or I don't like soy. Well, guess where 94% of all soy is fed? To animals.
Right.
So if you're eating meat, you're eating concentrated soy. So if soy is bad for you, you don't want to eat meat.
Right.
But soy isn't bad for you. It's been test marketed on the Asian world for centuries. They have lower incidence of cancer, lower incidence of obesity, lower incidence of heart disease. The list goes on and on. Actually, a thing that they blame soy about hormones is actually in the meat, because first of all, any estrogens in soy are phytoestrogens. They're plant estrogens, and it doesn't work that way in humans. The real estrogens and hormones we have to worry about are the estrogens and hormones in cows.
For sure.
And cows are kept pregnant because they are just baby-producing, milk-producing machines right up until they go off to be made to hamburger. So quite often they're pregnant when they're slaughtered. And so you're getting all those hormones, not to mention the adrenaline of the terrified animal. And you know what I say? I've covered crime for years.
I say that all the time.
I covered crime for decades. I continue to cover crime because people ask me to do interviews. Factory farming, how most animals are raised, is a rape, murder, and abduction operation. I mean, it's a rape, abduction, and murder operation. Let's put it that linear fashion. First, they violate the mothers, whether it's pigs or cows or any other animal. They're not making love back there. They actually have something they call a rape rack for cows, and they put their fists right into their private parts and drop the semen in there.
Gee.
Then, when the baby's born, they rip the mother away from the baby, which causes intense and unmitigated grief and hysteria on the baby's part, the baby calf, and the mother calf. There's video, and I talked to a woman who turned her calf-cow operation into a sanctuary, the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary in Angleton, Texas. And she did it because her husband started a calf-cow operation, and she was a country singer. They're Texan as can be. She goes out and she sees the mothers running after the red trailer, taking their babies away.
Aww.
And they run and run for 1.5 miles along the frontage, and then they scream. And she said, this is morally wrong. And after watching it a couple of times, she told her husband, I'm going to divorce you unless you turn this into a sanctuary. And he said, well, this is my business, and I'm going to sell the whole business then. And she said, I'll buy it from you. And she started an Indiegogo campaign.
Wow.
Because she had secretly started a blog called Vegan Diary of a Cattle Rancher's Wife. So she was developing an audience base. She's amazing. Her name's Renee King-Sona. You should have her on.
Yeah.
And she started an Indiegogo campaign, raised $36,000, bought out her husband, bought the ranch. He, meanwhile, took the $36,000 and put it right back into the ranch to make it a sanctuary because they have to have tractors and hay and feed. And now I'm on their board. And he went vegan along with her. And I spent a week there.
Great
and
story.
And he said, don't name them. Whatever you do, Renee, don't name them. Because she was going out and naming them. And then she's a country singer. She started singing to them. And she started noticing, and they would come to her when she'd go out there, and she started noticing one of the cows would play babysitter when the other cows. She started seeing their whole complex social life.
Yeah. And there's so much proof now that we know they're sentient beings and that they're smarter than our dogs and our cats, many of these animals. It's just, people just don't want to know the truth. And that's why actually what you think holds people back. And sadly,
because society has said, you get a pass on this one. You can kill without being called a killer. You can torture without being called a sadist. And guess what? There is no free pass. It catches up with you in the form of heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes, which is connected to meat and dairy eating, which I'm sure you know about.
Well, Dr. Barnard is the expert on that, and he says it's all from fat. It's not from carbs. So we know that now.
Because the fat clogs the tubes. So
we know that now.
Candy consumption's going down, and diabetes is going up.
Exactly.
So,
but what do you think about this paleo movement? Because that's out for a lot of people. Oh, I'm on a really healthy diet. I'm a paleo person.
Can I say bullshit?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing. They found a skull of a paleo man from many millennial ago, like the paleo era. They didn't have floss back then. So they checked between his teeth. Guess what they found? Vegetables. Because think about it. The phrase low-hanging fruit comes to mind. Mm-hmm. It's easy to pick vegetables and fruit compared to hunting down a bison. Okay, so that was a treat up until factory farming and fast food developed in the mid-1950s and really took off. First factory farming and then fast food and then, additions to factory farming. But it was really in the mid 20th century that all this horror hit critical mass. People didn't eat meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was a treat. It was a small portion of their plate. Mm-hmm. And I have like a little magnet on my refrigerator. It says, eat organic food, or as your grandparents used to call it, food.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But, I think part of this paleo thing, too, first I do think, sadly, I would say fad, but it's ongoing long time. And I think part of it is a cop-out. It's a way to be able to eat what you want and pretend like you're doing something healthy for you. It makes no sense to me at all. Here's
the thing.
Sad.
Meat and dairy is addictive. I have the dubious honor of being an expert in addiction. I'm 22 years sober. I was a blackout drinker. I wrote 2 books about addiction. One was my memoir, iWant, where I talked about hitting bottom and getting sober. And going vegan was very much timed to that. Because until I had that moment of clarity, until I got sober, I was able to sort of I was half-assed about everything I did. So I didn't go vegan until after I got sober. Interesting. Mm-hmm. And I call it food sobriety, frankly, because sobriety is all about keeping your side of the street clean and doing no harm that you can avoid. And so, as Gene Bauer says, if you could go through life causing less suffering, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. So I also wrote a book called Addict Nation. And the truth is that just like alcohol, just like sugar, meat and dairy are addictive. So you're going to crave it, just like you crave heroin if you're on heroin. Mm-hmm. You have to go to a rehab. You have to clean your system of it. And it takes at least 28 days. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to go to rehab for longer than 28 days. So people who say, I tried to give up meat, but I craved it. Yeah, you're going to crave it. Just like if you were hooked on heroin and you were a junkie, you're going to crave heroin. Or just like if you're a crack addict, you're going to crave crack. It doesn't mean it's good for you.
Right. And there's so many great substitutes that are transition foods that we never had before when I was vegan, right? Now they
Yes.
have, I mean, we live in LA, so we have lots of
the
choices.
Beyond Meat
but
burger,
the Beyond
it's
Meat
almost
burger,
so meaty, I'm afraid to eat it.
I know,
It's
because
all
I couldn't
plant-based.
ever eat that stuff because I never liked the flavor of
Yeah.
anything animal. Like I couldn't eat any
Yeah.
of those. But now in the last years, I've learned to be able to do it and enjoy it. But
Yes.
it is kind of scary. Some of them, like Crossroads Kitchen here.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
love
had
that
their
place.
new burger?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Impossible
The
Foods,
Impossible
yeah.
Foods burger.
Yeah,
that is insane.
I eat it because I want to encourage it. And also,
Yeah.
I do like the Beyond Meat burger. I have a cookout, so I have a grill. You know, I live here in LA, and like many people, I have a grill. And I put the sign, the Beyond Meat burger cover, out there so nobody would mistake that we were eating meat. And actually, I have a neighbor who's a nice guy, and he has a grill. And I thought, oh, he just got a grill, and I was like, oh God, now I'm gonna have to smell this meat. And I went out and got him like 6 packs of Beyond Meat burgers, and I said, here's a gift, and he loved them, and he's been feeding to people. Now that doesn't mean that he stopped eating meat,
Right.
but he does mix it in. And so,
well, that's the start. That's what people have to do. And I try to say that on my show. We think as vegans, I try really hard not to like close the door on anyone. If all they can do right now is 2 days a week, do it. If next week you can do 3, do it. If next month you can go a 30-day vegan challenge, do it. Because once you do that, once you make the commitment and you see how clear-headed you feel and how your health feels better and you wake up with better energy and you feel lighter and you go, wow, that's the thing that often keeps people going.
Sure. And you know, different things work for different people.
They do.
If you use the alcohol or drug analogy, you don't gradually kick alcohol.
Right.
You gotta stop.
Yeah.
Because one sip will trigger a new craving. So I do tell people, if they can find it in their heart to just quit and switch to when you want a burger, switch to a veggie burger and just try it. Actually, I think it's like taking a Band-Aid off quickly or slowly. At the end of the day, you're saving yourself a lot of grief by just doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's people who are all or nothing, and there's people who do it slowly, but I agree.
Well, it's not all or nothing with killing. If you're killing, you're killing. Like I have a lady who's a friend of my mother. She's lovely, from Argentina, and I was seeing her because I miss my mom, and she was very close to my mom. And she's, I barely eat meat anymore, just a little piece here or there. I said, well, that animal's still got to be dead for you to eat that little piece here or there.
Yeah.
So, you know,
so
half
true.
measures in 12-step, we say half measures avail us nothing. We stood at the turning point, and we had to let go with complete abandon.
While you take your break, you guys, I just have to tell you about a vegan burger I finally tried. You'll hear Jane talk about it in our interview, but it's called the Beyond Meat burger. Have you guys had it yet? Oh my God. They've had one called the Beast burger out for a while, but the Beyond Meat burger is so much like eating ground beef. I really had a hard time eating it the first time, which was just last week. It really played with my mind, but they're not that easy to find because the company is funded by Bill Gates and they're having a production problem because it's so popular that they just can't make enough. And you can imagine if it's funded by Bill Gates, that's because he believes it's going to be a game changer in life. And I think he's right. Oh my God, it's so real though. You won't believe it. So go on their site and see if anyone in your area sells it. There were 2 Whole Food stores here in LA that had them. They're truly amazing. Okay, now how many of you out there listen on iTunes and have not left a review for the Vidal Speaks podcast? Well, if you're in this category and you're listening today, then my call to action is for you. Please, please, please leave a review. We need them to make the show get anywhere in the rankings, and I have such a big mission to help millions of people turn their health around and take responsibility of their health just by having the knowledge and the truth about lifestyle medicine. Thank you in advance for all of you guys who have left a review. And also thanks to all of you that are already using my Amazon banner. But if you're not, please consider using it and supporting the show. I sure could use it. And you guys know I'll love you forever, right? All right, now let's get back to the show. But you see, there's a lot of people I found when I saw my patients that they're coming to me for homeopathy. And of course, I would tell them about their diet, because you can't eat crap and take a remedy and think that you're going to turn your whole life around.
Yeah.
So I would talk to them about a plant-based diet and a vegan diet. But there's a lot of people that went vegan for their health, and they would say to me, I'm not into the animal part of it. I don't care about that part. And I would think, that's strange, that's interesting. And even the environmental part. But you know what? When they got there, it's amazing how they change.
Yes.
So what I do, since a lot of people, at least my podcast is about health, and all my listeners know I love animals, and in some ways I say I'm a health and animal activist, because it's both.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like sometimes that's how you have to get them, is only for their health, because they'll pretend that they don't care, but they do, because we're born to love animals.
Yes.
It's natural.
Yes,
they
and
do
if
care.
if you're religious or spiritual, which I don't necessarily say are interchangeable, but if you believe in God and you believe God created these creatures, whatever your higher power is, did not bring them here to be raped and pillaged and tortured. Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, what's happening is an abomination. I'm morally indignant. And what I love about Dr. Melanie Joy, who coined the term carnism, is we have to stop apologizing. I was in New York the day before yesterday sitting, and I decided I had a little time before I met my friend from Argentina, and I was working on a project, and I was just on my laptop, and I had my earbuds in, but I heard this couple next door. They were a man and a woman. They weren't a couple. They were talking about going on a double date with their respective partners or girlfriends and boyfriends. Okay, so the guy's like, and I'd really like it if we could maybe do something vegetarian. And she was kind of, and he said, there's this great restaurant, Candle Cafe. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I promise you, it's vegan. It is vegan, but I really think you'll love it. He was so apologetic. Wow. And she was just really hard, like, meh. And I turned around and I said, you don't have to kill animals to have a delicious meal. She said, we weren't talking to you. I said, well, I speak for the voiceless animals who can't speak for themselves. Yeah. And then I went back to my book. It was a really interesting thing, because Dr. Melanie Joy says, when you have the moral high ground, don't apologize.
True, and there was nothing he should be apologetic.
No,
I don't
was the good guy.
apologize if I ask someone to try Crossroads.
No.
Why? That's the best food in LA.
Because she was resistant.
Yeah.
I don't even like to go to events where meat is served. Sometimes I'll have to for political reasons. But a really good friend of mine invited me to a cookout in Malibu. And, I'm going to be able to see a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a long time, because I've been out of town for many years, and I was coming back, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, there's going to be meat served there, and then people, I thought if I do go, because there are people, Direct Action Everywhere, they take a pledge and they say they won't break bread, they won't sit down with people who are killing animals and eat with them, and they have a little fork that they wear. And they asked me if I wanted to take it, and I said, I'll have to think about it, because I don't know what's more effective. Is it more effective bringing, let's say, a whole bunch of Beyond Meat burgers to get people to try, which I've done in the past, or should we just move on to those people who can't change? Mm-hmm. Because I do feel that it's generational. Like, if you think back to something else, and, people get upset if you equate the animal rights movement to other horrors of the past that involve humans, like human slavery or persecution of women and treated as property, or the horrors of the Nazi Holocaust. Yeah. Isn't it ironic that we so demonize animals to even compare their predicament to a horrible thing that happened to humans is somehow considered offensive by many? Let me tell you who makes the comparison. Alex Hershaft, who is the head of the farm animal rights movement, who is a Holocaust survivor himself and who escaped the Holocaust. And he came to the United States, and he is one of my heroes. He was almost run over not so long ago by a truck carrying pigs to slaughter, and couldn't get the media to cover it. And I connected with him because he sent me the video and said, can you please put this up? Nobody's covering it. They won't cover it. And he's an 84-year-old guy, Holocaust survivor, and a truck carrying farm animals to slaughter almost ran him over, missed him by, it's the most dramatic footage. And even then the news media won't cover it. He's the one who made the comparison. He said in one of his famous speeches that he came to the United States. He became a successful environmental engineer. He was asked to go to a slaughterhouse to do some work on the water. He turned the corner and he had this shock of seeing these animals. And he was the one who said, it all came to me. This is a Holocaust. And he said, this is why I survived. This is my mission. And it's so emotional when you hear him say it. But he's the one saying it, and he has every right to say it because he was the one who survived the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So, it's really upsetting. I've talked to women who've been victims of sexual assault, and I spoke about how we have to stand up for the feminine because, again, this is a rape, abduction, and murder operation. We rape the mothers, we steal their babies, and then we kill them all. So how can a woman who's a feminist, we talked about how can environmentalists support meat production and eat meat. How can feminists?
Yeah.
Okay? It is the violation of the female reproductive system. That's the only way this is happening. Factory farming would not exist without rape. Right. And rape is defined as violation, unwanted penetration of sexual private parts. Yeah. That's what happens.
And I know now they've changed the laws so that anybody like yourself that's trying to be involved in stopping some of these things, that they're actually calling it acts of terrorism now, right?
Well, eco-terrorism, yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ would have been considered an eco-terrorist and an animal rights terrorist. The one thing that's the most documented about Jesus Christ, and there's a great book called Zealot. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it talks about this. He was a guy who was an activist. He was talking. He was trying to change things. And he went into the temple in Jerusalem. And they always say he fought with the money changers, but he fought with them because they were taking money for sacrificial animals. And he chased the animals destined for sacrifice out of the temple. He liberated those animals. Today, Jesus Christ would be considered a radical animal rights activist. So for those who, again, people who are religious, who say, well, dominion. Oh, God gave us dominion over animals. I don't believe that any higher power, if you believe in a higher power, would give you other sentient beings in order for you to torture them and kill them. Because that's what factory farming is.
And would they then select a dog over a pig? I mean, that makes no sense. I mean, really.
Why love one and eat the other?
That's what I mean. It just doesn't make any sense. If that were true, then that would be the case for every animal. You wouldn't just select two animals that are your pets and the others are ones you can murder and hurt.
Right.
So that's just...
And Jesus Christ is not running around eating hamburgers in the Bible, okay? There's metaphorical stories about dividing fish, etc., but there's no examples of him killing an animal. He was about peace.
Mm-hmm. And do you know the activist that I think he lives in Israel? You know, the guy...
Gary Yourofsky?
Yeah. He's great. He's amazing. He got arrested a bunch of times, but now he probably wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff anymore with the new laws.
Well, Israel is the hotbed of veganism.
It is.
And it's growing in large part to his speech.
Yes.
And so Alex Hershaft and Gary Yourofsky, they're the ones who are drawing commonalities and parallels to human suffering. And Israel is going vegan. I've been to Israel a couple of times. It's an amazing place. And they have great vegan restaurants. And, here's the thing. This is about, it's about human health. It's about environment. It's about feminism. It's about humanitarianism. We could end world hunger today if we stop taking all the food and packing it inefficiently into animals and we distributed all that grain directly to people. There would be no world hunger today. Okay, but it's also about human evolution. If we get to the point where we can't kill animals, where we just feel like it's wrong as a culture, how are we going to have a war? We will have evolved beyond this kind of terrible violence. I was in the old city of Jerusalem. We had an Israeli guide, and we went into the old city, I think they call it the Arab Quarter. I don't want to misspeak, but we sat down at a falafel place, and we had a vegetarian falafel, so a vegan falafel with an Arab chef who sat down with us and an Israeli tour guide, and we had such a great time, and I thought, this is peace. And it was peace because also no animal died for us to eat that. And so, I remember I gave money to a group that was rescuing donkeys from a war zone in the Middle East. And somebody said to me, how idiotic is that? How could you possibly rescue donkeys from a war zone? Don't you care about the people? I said, first of all, it's because I care about people that I'm rescuing the donkeys and not eating meat. Because, we could, as I just said, we could end world hunger today.
Yeah.
But I also said, the day that we're incapable of leaving donkeys tied up to die, starve to death, and just dehydrate to death in a war zone is the day that we as a human species will have evolved beyond war.
Mm-hmm, that's true. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But where do you feel like we're at? Do you feel like we're making progress? Do you think it's a lot of progress? Is it slow?
I think that...
Do you feel hopeful?
I think that more people who care need to step up. We didn't end slavery by asking so very politely or tweeting. Okay? Everybody who cares about animals, who cares about the environment, who's maybe upset with the fact that the United States has pulled out of the Paris Climate Change Accords and is trying to allow polluters to pollute our rivers and streams, and who's, an administration that's taken all the animal welfare information off of the USDA website. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening now. The one thing they can do that's in their power is not to eat meat or dairy. And dairy is liquid meat. Make no mistake. People who say that they don't eat meat, but they eat dairy, it's the same thing. The veal calves, all of it, the hamburgers, they were dairy cows. It's all part of the same system. So A, don't eat meat. B, get active. Get active. I was at the March on Washington, and I was with a bunch of vegans, including Nathan Runkle from Mercy for Animals, one of my heroes. And there was this woman with us who was not vegan. And we all went to dinner, and everybody ordered vegan except her. Then she ordered chicken. And I kind of looked at her. I thought, well, that's a little, everybody else is ordering vegan. We're not a vegan restaurant, but it's a vegan-friendly restaurant. She orders chicken. And then I watched her over the course of the evening, and she didn't touch the chicken. I said, are you going to eat that? She goes, you want it? I said, no, of course not. I said, I don't eat that. I'm vegan. But an animal died for you to have that dish, and you haven't even touched it. And she didn't want to hear it. She just didn't want to come to terms. She wants people to have compassion for her as a woman, to give her women's rights, to treat her with dignity. But she didn't even want to give me a second of acknowledgement that she had an animal killed, an animal that was a being that wanted to live, that had a mother, that had a life, and she didn't even touch the chicken. I said to the waitress, wrap it up, and we're going to take it with us, and I'm going to give it to her. And the next day when we were marching, I said, what happened to the chicken? She said, we gave it to a homeless person. But the resistance. Now, we were at a resistance march.
Yeah.
Her resistance to compassion was notable. So we have to expand our circle of compassion beyond just ourselves. This is the first social justice movement that is about a species not our own. Okay? So it's really a litmus test for civilization. And I do feel we are going to get to the tipping point. But we have to step it up. We've all got to go into our discomfort zone. I am very happy now to go out and get arrested. I decided that recently because I knew of somebody who got arrested, and I realized that that person was exhibiting courage and was arrested at a live poultry market. And I said, there's a bit of cowardice in me not to want to get arrested because every training in my life is stay out of trouble. Don't get arrested. Don't get arrested my whole life. So to have to get arrested in some kind of protest, I think is something that may have to happen. We can't, all these movements. At the time, the people who sat at the counter and ordered when they were minorities and were told not to be there were considered criminals or violating social norms at the very least. Rosa Parks, okay?
Right.
So you don't get anywhere being so very polite all the time.
Yeah, and they're making the rules harder and harder so that, when you resist a little now, you're considered an eco-terrorist.
Well, not really. I mean, look, there are instances of that, but we still have plenty of freedom to do a lot of disruptions. And Direct Action Everywhere is an incredible group. I mean, you're right in certain cases, but what I'm saying is those of us who have freedom to act need to act.
There's lots of ways to do it.
And Direct Action Everywhere does these incredible speak outs. They go into a mall, like they were in the Westfield Mall. It's on my JaneUnChained. It's amazing. And they stand there, 300 of them, and then a woman gets on a table and says, it's not food, it's violence. There is no such thing as humane meat. These are individuals. These are animals that did not volunteer to be killed. And, they all say, it's not food, it's violence. It's very powerful.
Wow.
And we went live. In fact, we were the only ones alive 2 years in a row, JaneUnChained, bringing those stories to other people. I tag progressive environmentalists, MoveOn.org. I tag resistance movement, resist. These people need to be on board with this movement. It's the same thing. Wasn't it Martin Luther King who said, as long as one of us is oppressed, all of us are?
True. Well, it's what I always say, we think we can eat and slaughter and murder these animals and not affect us. Our oceans are dying. We can't live without our animals. People, what are they? They're just in complete denial. We're all one. We're all the same. Our environment, our planet, our animals, us. It's not sustainable. It's not going to work. I mean, our oceans literally are dying. They're acidic. I watched this video the other day that someone put on Twitter, and it was a hose, like a big, 6 foot across circumference hose that were just sucking fish in this, and the hose was 150 yards long.
Oh, it's disgusting.
One boat operation. I mean, it's unbelievable at the rate that we're just decimating the environment. And to think that we're going to be okay without our oceans.
These people who think, business and jobs. First of all, jobs have been used to justify atrocities. They said the same thing about slavery. It's going to ruin jobs, ruin careers, ruin industries. Yeah, it's going to ruin the slave industry.
Yeah.
And the other thing is
same about the coal industry, and they're spewing mercury into the air, killing humans for.
Same about women in the workplace. They said, it's going to deprive men of jobs. But it's also short-term stupidity. In Florida, I was down there covering an animal rights story. You couldn't even go swimming in this one Gulf town because the agricultural runoff had created such a bad situation in the water. People were getting rashes. So how is that good for a tourist zone? Yeah. It's not. It's just short-term thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, the stupidity, there are no words, but, you can talk to your blue in the face. The truth is that 3.5% of the population is going to flip at some point, and it's a question of when. And when that happens and veganism becomes normalized, plant-based eating becomes normalized, the rest will follow. And they'll all of a sudden start accepting it because they're tradition-bound, and they're only going to do something that's co-signed by the culture. Okay, so it's like when I was the first to get a Prius, when I saw it on Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was a tiny little car. And everybody looked at me because, in LA, it's all about what you drive. And they looked at me and they were like, you're so weird. Basically, somebody actually said that to me. You're so weird. Because I was working at the Paramount lot and they thought I should be. I had traded in a lemon BMW that didn't have leather seats, but it was still a lemon. I called it the Oktoberfest edition. And I got this Prius, right? This little Prius. And, people would just look at me funny, like, why are you driving this little rinky-dink car? Because that, in their mind, even though it was a great car, I'm on my third Prius today. Well, now, come back to LA 7 years later, every other car is a Prius.
Yep.
In fact, I ordered it when I was in New York because I wanted to have wheels as soon as I arrived. And I thought, in my head, it was still the unusual car. Not to say that I hadn't been back, but I hadn't really thought about it. Yeah. And now it's like every other car is a Prius. I'm like, oh my God, I'm driving not the least popular car, the most popular car, the car that every other person has. It's going to be the same thing with meat eating and veganism. It's getting normalized. Here's the thing. The new generation is totally hip to it. This morning, I was doing this unnamed show, right? And we were talking politics, and the woman on the other side was very dismissive of veganism while we were chatting before the show went on. We were actually talking about healthcare, and I always bring veganism in. I always manage to bring it in. But she goes, well, yeah, my son says he's a vegetarian, and it's making it real difficult for me to feed him. I said, no. I said, it's a mark of high intelligence. You should be thrilled. It's like the kids are getting it.
Yeah.
They really are. And so it's going to flip. It reminds me of Amazon taking over, and the Macy's and the Sears are marching like nothing's wrong here, nothing to see here. And now they're all collapsing. Boom. Because they weren't paying attention. It's the same thing happening with veganism. The mainstream media is not paying attention, but it's creeping up. And it's going to be a disruptor like no other disruptor everywhere. And the really smart people in the meat industry are starting to realize it. They're starting to invest in the meat alternatives. In fact, one of the executives of a major meat, one of the biggest producers of meat, said the future of food may be meatless. And so they get it. They see the trajectory, but it's really up to us to change it. So I urge everyone listening who's an animal lover, step it up. If you look at slavery, which I always look at, as an example of the sacrifices made to change a situation, an intolerable, cruel situation. People just, as I said, didn't just say, oh, this is a bad idea. People formed an underground railroad. They risked their lives, they risked their freedom, they risked their families, they risked their careers to shuttle people to freedom. And if you look at Harriet Tubman, she was a slave who got out, and she just wasn't content to stay out. She went back repeatedly, risking her own life. She was a wanted woman to free others. And every single time she risked her life. That's the kind of dedication it's going to take to change this. So if you love animals and you're like, oh, I don't like Facebook or I don't like social media, get over it. The animals can't afford your shyness. We need everybody on social media. I said to you that I thought your cooking thing that you did today on Lunch Break Live was so good. I didn't say, oh, I want to keep this concept for myself. I said to you, you need to do a cooking show because you're dynamic. You're a person who knows how to talk to the camera and keep it exciting. And you're also a good chef. You need to do it. Like you're doing as much already, but we all need to redouble our efforts.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about the Lunch Break Live, because I think that's a great thing that you're making it easy for people because they're seeing not only healthy, delicious food, but how easy it is because it's 15 minutes.
Yeah. Today we made mock tuna. Actually, you made it. And it was so delicious. It was nuts and seeds and all the other things with veggies and celery and onions. It was absolutely delicious. And then you made a watermelon drink that was absolutely delicious and a fruit cup that was absolutely delicious. And you can watch these shows that we do every day. And it's Sunday through Friday at facebook.com/Jane Valez-Mitchell, or you can go to JaneUnChained.com and just check out the recipes. So people say to me, well, I don't know what to eat. I said, well, just go to my website. We've got hundreds of recipes. We've been doing this over a year.
Wow, that's such a commitment, Jane.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot. I mean, honestly, it is
Filming
a lot.
6
every
days a week.
single day. Yes, and that then we do other things as well. Like we do right now while we're working. Lisa Carlin, who's our Lunch Break Live co-producer, is putting up the information on the web, and then I'll spread it to LinkedIn and other places. And we really want to share it, and then we send it out on a salsa as well. So. And then we're going to cover some protests tonight, and we're all over the country. I just got a New York contributor. I have a Portland, Oregon contributor. We have 4 people here in LA who do stories. My girlfriend, that snarky vegan girl, went to the vegan mac and cheese competition and was going live there. And then we have people all over the place because there's so much happening.
That's so great. So before we end, tell us, what are 3 things that somebody listening that isn't vegan, that's a little bit timid about doing it, what can they do to step it up for the animals?
Okay, well, first of all, I was in Costco because I shop in Costco. I like to save money like anyone else. There were vegan cookbooks all over the place. So anybody who's wants plausible deniability or I don't know what to cook, all you have to do is go on Amazon and put vegan cookbooks. Thousands of vegan cookbooks will come up literally. In fact, people always tell me you should be writing a vegan cookbook. I said, I'm sorry, they're killing enough trees with the vegan cookbooks already. I'm glad, but I get one in the mail every week. So you can get a vegan cookbook. There's a million of them. So start doing the recipes. Have fun with it. It's fun. It's just like, giving up meat. It's like, I remember when I gave up alcohol, I thought at first, because I hit bottom, I made a fool of myself not far from here at a very fancy party in the Hollywood Hills. And, that's when you hit bottom, is incomprehensible demoralization. So I thought I'll never have fun again. I'll never go dancing again. I'll never do karaoke again. I'll never have a good time ever again. Wrong. I have a better time today. A, I'm going to remember it. B.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So it's like that. You think your world is over. It's not. It's an adventure. It's not a sacrifice. So that's the first thing I'll tell them. It's not a sacrifice. You're going to have fun. There's thousands of vegetables. There's only a few animals you eat, but there's thousands of vegetables you can play with and fruits. So there's more variety in vegan cooking. A.
For sure.
B, you'll be healthier. Your chance of getting heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer. Processed meat is officially cancer causing.
All meat actually is, according to the China study.
Right.
They've only now just gotten to processed meat.
Exactly. And so, you'll be healthier. And you'll save money. People always try to paint veganism as expensive. Well, only the elites, just like the Priuses are supposedly so much, or they were when they first came out. They're not. Mercedes and BMW are more expensive than the Priuses. Let's be real. It's the same thing. You go to the store. I've gone on trips with friends who are vegan, who are not vegan, who are meat eaters. We go to the store. Their bill is much more expensive because you could live on a sack of potatoes and a sack of cabbage for a month.
And rice and beans.
And
even that tuna recipe I made today, if they didn't want to buy the almonds, do it with only sunflower seeds.
Or
They're
chickpeas
cheap.
Or whatever. It's so cheap. You will save money, okay?
Yes.
And so you're going to save money. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to have more adventure in cooking and dining. You're going to go check out all these different cultures. You're not going to go. And the other thing, never eat fast food. No, just stay away from it, except for Veggie Grill, which is the vegan fast food restaurant. And there's a new one, Plant Power Fast Food in San Diego area.
Cool.
That's a vegan dry food. Yeah, drive-through. So stay away from all those places. You can't negotiate with crack. Okay, and these fast food manufacturers have figured out they're packing their food with sugar, salt, and fat. 3 ingredients were biologically pre-programmed to crave to get us through times of famine. 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. There's no famine anymore. That's hooking you. So this food is addictive. I talk about that in Addict Nation, and you got to get away from it. You can't wean yourself off of an addictive substance. You just got to cut it out. Yeah. Get rid of it.
And just replace it with another delicious tasting plant food because there's many, many of them.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about from up here. I have the worst instincts. I'm a very addictive personality. Like I said, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I was a blackout drinker. I have cravings for bad things. I'm very blessed to be vegan. If I was not vegan, I don't know what the hell I would look like because I have always struggled with my weight my whole life. And I still do, but the struggle that I would be having if I was eating dairy
would be tenfold.
The average American eats 65 pounds of cheese a year.
Yeah.
And they're getting fatter and fatter. And cheese is officially addictive because there's an opiate-like substance in cheese to make the baby crave the milk.
Right.
Otherwise, the baby, Morphines.
So what can they do as far as beginning some step it up for animal activism?
Well, join all the groups.
Yeah, like
join PETA, join Mercy for Animals, give money. Give money. I give money to PETA. I give till it hurts. They say that it's not a sacrifice unless it stings a little bit. So I give more than I probably should, but I can't help it. I'm going to give because ultimately it makes me feel better. I don't want to live on a planet where we're cutting beaks off of chickens and chopping tails off without anesthesia and castrating animals without anesthesia. I don't want to live in that world. I'm going to do everything I can to change the world. And so join those groups, go to protests, join vegan meetups. Go online. There's such great communities, and there's protests every day. There's one thing I work with Anita Crines of Toronto Pig Save, and she's a woman who was put on trial for giving water to a pig bound for slaughter. And I went to Toronto and we covered the last day of her trial, and the judge threw the charge out, and it was a huge story. It was one of the rare occasions where the mainstream media caught on to the story, because it was caught on tape, and the truck driver who called police was so mean. He goes, they're not humans, you dumb friggin' broad. So there was video of this exchange that was so powerful. So she wants to have a vigil at every slaughterhouse in the world. Again, she's setting a grand intention. So here at Los Angeles, we have Los Angeles Animal Save. We go to Farmer John's. And you can go to Los Angeles Animal Save. You can go to Toronto Pig Save and learn how to start your own vigil. If you live in a remote area, like in Dallas, there's those vegan bodybuilders have started Dallas Animal Save. We've got Sacramento Animal Save that's starting up. We're starting vigils everywhere. So you can go to a vigil, like I go to the ones here in Los Angeles. There's one at a cow place. There's one at a pig place. And then you could start your own. That's very important. So join the groups, go vegan, get involved, get proactive, and buy these alternative food products. And every time I go to Costco, I stop on the way out and I fill out a form. Please, why don't you provide the vegan mayonnaise? please, more vegan products. Please, more vegan products.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
You have to speak out, and you need to share all this stuff on social media because it's how the world is working now, and it is how we can change the world. It's just, look at just by connecting to you, then my listeners become your listeners listeners become my listeners, and that brings more exposure. We just got to all work together.
Yeah.
We all have to work together.
And, you know, Anita wasn't like this animal activist. She happened to be walking her dog. She was walking her dog and she saw a pig truck, and it changed her life. Because when you see those animals in there, they're terrified. They're like babies. They're like human babies. I cannot tell you. I have a friend of mine who's a chef, and he lives across from me, and we bonded because he has a dog. He has a pit bull, and I have 3 dogs and a cat. My dogs are vegan, by the way, and my cat is 90% vegan, and we're trying to get her to full veganism. But suffice it to say, we bonded over this, and I said, I want to take you to this vigil. And I took him to the vigil, and he saw the pigs. He started crying. He said, I'm never going to eat meat again. Wow. I will never cook meat.
That's what I always say. When people see it, they won't be able to do it.
Get them to a vigil. Go to a vigil.
Yeah, that's cool. Jane, it's great. Thanks so much for joining me today. And it was really fun cooking for your show.
It was great.
I'm so curious to see how that comes out. And I hope a bunch of people try it and get inspired. And tomorrow they say they're vegan. So then we'll have done our job. On. High five. Woo! All right. Thanks for joining me. We'll be in touch soon.
Okay.
Is that a passionate person or what? Gosh, I guess I'm supposed to do a cooking show now. Geez, I just need more days in the week or another lifetime or more help. Anyways, I do love to cook, and I have big dreams to always do some YouTube videos for you guys or some kind of Facebook Live events. I guess I'll get there one day. Making sure my show is high quality and comes to you guys every Wednesday is my biggest priority right now, and that takes a lot of work. But I'll do more when I can. I'm sure you guys know that. Don't you love to hear from someone who knows their life work and who's on a mission? Yeah, that's the kind of confidence and passion that Jane has, and it's contagious. You can see why Jane was famous in the media world. Her energy is big, and it needs a big person like this to change this movement and to speak up or be the voice for the voiceless. When you love animals, then it's all you need to stop eating them. Because when you watch Jane's Lunch Break Live show, then you're going to learn just how easy it is to immediately begin to eat easy vegan meals. I thought it was very interesting that she said you need to go cold turkey because meat is just like a drug. Well, she's coming from a point of view of being an addict, and I get that when she said that. I never really thought of it like that. She says having a little over time left in your diet is not helping. I'm kind of an all or nothing person, so I get it. I just appreciate anyone who takes meat off their plate and replaces it with healthy, whole, vegan foods. It's so delicious when you eat vegan. You just gotta wonder how you could ever have enjoyed that animal flesh in the past. And like Lanny Muelrath said, once you become aware and compassionate and you can connect the impact of eating animals and how we're harming them and harming our environment, but also our own health, then I think it's an easy, natural choice to go vegan. Too many don't want to hear about the devastation in the ocean and how it will be wiped out by 2050. Too many people don't want to hear about all the toxins in our food, air, and water. But you know what? You have to. I believe if you could go watch, even for 1 hour, the life of the animal from the horrid cages they live where they can't turn around, or even the cry of a mama cow when they rip her baby away, or the horrible way they kill them, I seriously doubt you or many others could eat them. I believe everyone who eats animals should have to see what they're eating. It makes no sense to me that we love our dogs and eat our pigs because it's proven that pigs are much smarter than dogs and they make great pets. But so many turn a blind eye. Well, it's time to wake up, and I think people are waking up because it's been said that in 2017, the vegan plant-based movement is the biggest movement of the year so far. Okay, you guys, I know I'm ranting now. Don't get me started. As a lifelong animal lover, I connect so deeply with animals. And even when I became a homeopath, I said, I don't want to treat people. I want to treat animals. My teachers would say, Deborah, you have to treat people. And then by treating them, you'll get their animals. But we're all born as animal lovers and with compassion. And I think it's just time we get back to our roots or our soul's true expression and get away from a culture that has misled us to believe it's okay to eat an animal and that we're above them as humans. We are all one. We can't live without our animals. Look at the bees, for instance. With no bees, there'd be no food. And there's so much more they give us, and you're going to learn all about that in next week's episode, you guys. We all need each other. We are all one, I believe. Respect for life is a must, and it starts with not eating violence on your plate and doing your part in the world for your own health, the health of the planet, and for the simple act of compassion to honor all life. That really is the essence of life, and so much of that has been lost in our modern times. But that's another whole conversation for another day and another show. But I do want to say this, for every one of you out there, and for every plant-based meal and every effort you make to eat a whole food vegan diet, I just want to commend you and say thank you from the animals, from me, and from your own body saying thank you, because you're really doing the single biggest thing you can do to impact our environment and your own personal health. So congratulations for any plant-based meal you eat. Well, you guys, I think you know what time it is, right? It's time to say goodbye, my Vidal speakers. I hope you enjoyed the show today, you guys. And until next Wednesday, eat clean, eat plants, and love all of our animals. Vidal has spoken. Remember, you heal with a plant-powered diet, homeopathy, and detoxing, of course. Peace. Be healthy. Be free. Live life.